This is the DJI Pocket 2 and this is the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Both shoot on 4K, both shoot a slow-mo, they give you inbuilt stabilization of some sort. Essentially, they both give you a huge bang for your money. If you're a content creator looking for the best compact video camera setup, giving you amazing video quality while at the same time keeping things to a minimum in terms of size, well, you'll struggle to find anything better in the market today. The big question you might ask yourself is, which one should you buy? Why would you ever want to consider any of these cameras over DSLR or mirrorless? Well, let's see. If I want to shoot with my DSLR camera, I need to put in my camera back at least a wide lens. So there goes my 16-35. I might want some flexibility for tighter framing, so I'll also throw in my 24-70 zoom, just to be safe. I might also be tempted to add a long lens for extreme close-ups, so there goes my 70-200. Let's not forget a variable ND, and of course, all the lens hoods to avoid lens flares. I'll need plenty of batteries, charger, memory cards, card readers, and let's not forget a monitor. Oh, and let's not forget sound. I need a set of wireless mics and at least a small sound recorder, just in case. And with that goes the batteries and cables that go with them. I mean, the list can just go on and on. On the other hand, with the 12 Pro Max, I get the phone, a wide lens adapter, camera mount, ND filters, and a lens hood. With the Pocket 2 is pretty much the same thing. The Pocket 2, they create this combo with the wide lens and wireless mic plus ND filters. Essentially, that's it. But before we even get started, I imagine that if you're watching this video, you care about getting the best possible images out of these cameras. So on that note, I'll be making the assumption that whoever is watching uses a third-party app for their iPhone and nobody uses the default app. Everything I talk about here is based on using a third-party app. In my case, I use Filmic Pro and I choose it over any other app because it gives me the option to control it remotely from another phone, which is something that I find essential in many situations. I'm also assuming everyone cares about sticking to the 180-degree rule for shutter speed because everything that you see daytime in this video has been recorded using an ND filter. If you do not own a set of ND filters, please do yourself a favor and invest in a set. I couldn't stress enough how essential they are for videography. And in regards to the Pocket 2, I'm using the Creators combo, and in all fairness, they are the most basic and essential accessories for it. And in my opinion, it's a no-brainer. And with that out of the way, let's get things going. Okay, so both of these cameras give you 4K and in general, very similar manual features. That is, as long as you use a third-party app on the iPhone because, and I keep going on about this, the default app is absolute garbage. The 12 Pro Max telephoto and ultra-wide lenses are fantastic, but they're only useful for daytime filming. Forget about using them in low light. Honestly, they just can't handle low light. They need a lot of light, and the same applies to the selfie lens. These three lenses, as fancy as they sound, they're for bright daylight filming only. The main wide lens, on the other hand, is fantastic on both daylight and low light or nighttime filming. This is the lens that you'll be using the most without a doubt. Switching to the Pocket 2, the standard lens is phenomenal, and the wide lens in the Creators combo is fantastic. The only complaint I have with this wide-angle lens is the fact that you can't add any filters on it, which is a real issue if you shoot daytime and you can't use ND filters. Not so much of an issue in low light or nighttime filming. Saying that, I recently discovered a little hack that allows me to add ND filters to this lens, which I've made a video about, and I can tell you that the results are brilliant. You can now have a proper wide-angle lens with a correct shutter speed, and that is huge in my opinion. Now, in terms of image quality, the Pro Max footage can look a little too sharp and saturated for my liking, almost bordering artificial. If you're okay with the ultra sharp look, then you'll love it. To me, it's a bit too sharp, so to make it look a bit more natural, I usually soften a bit in post because unfortunately, you can't adjust sharpness on camera, and that's a real shame. This is why ND filters for daytime filming are such an essential accessory. But this is not something unique to the 12 Pro Max. It's the same whatever camera you use. You basically need ND filters to keep the footage looking good. That's just the way it is. I'm sure I'm not the first person you hear this from, and it's for a reason. In terms of dynamic range, I have to say the 12 Pro Max is spectacular. The computational photography has got so good, honestly. And to some extent, the dynamic range is even better than in high-end cameras. I know it sounds hard to believe, but it really is that good. The Pocket 2, on the other hand, relies on the more traditional way of getting things correctly exposed, and then you touch up in post. I really wish DJI could implement computational photography the way Apple does, but for now, it is what it is. This doesn't mean that the Pocket 2 doesn't have good dynamic range, which it does. You just have to make sure that you set the color space to D-Cine, and that helps a lot in capturing the highest possible dynamic range. The secret here, and I'm sorry to be banging about this again, is using ND filters. The normal color space or profile in the Pocket 2, to me, is way too contrasting. The D-Cine look or color space gives you footage that looks a little flat, but it captures the best possible image quality. You can then easily grade in post, and honestly, it will look amazing. Both cameras shoot HDR, but the Pocket 2 is heavily cropped in, and only at 2.7K. And on top of that, you can't lock exposure, which makes me wonder what the hell is DJI thinking about. I'm not a big fan of cropped in footage, so I strongly recommend you avoid it until the Pocket 2 can do it without any cropping and also able to lock exposure, and that is if you ever get that from DJI. The 12 Pro Max, on the other hand, gives you non-cropped 4K HDR, and to be honest with you, it looks stunning. But like I said in my in-depth review of the Pro Max, which you can see a link up here on the screen, I don't recommend anyone using it because hardly anyone has an HDR capable display, so you'll be limiting quite heavily your audience. I would highly recommend that you shoot 10-bit log-free color space in Filmic Pro and then apply the free Filmic Pro LUT. It will look almost the same as the HDR footage, but in SDR, which means that everyone can see it. They both have autofocus, and in all fairness, it works really good. Mind you though, the autofocus gets triggered when something crosses the middle of the frame. It can't recognize faces or eyes like large DSLR cameras do. Imagine a square box in the middle of the frame, and until anything enters that box, well, the camera won't focus onto it. And this applies to both of them. Again, which one is best is very much down to personal choice and style. At first, you might think that the 4 cameras and focal lens in the 12 Pro Max will give you way more functionality than the Pocket 2. But I would say, don't judge a book by its cover. The 12 Pro Max, yes, has 4 cameras and the Pocket 2 has only 1. Although you can spin that camera around so you get both selfie and normal camera in one. So that's 2 of the iPhone cameras. And the selfie camera in the Pro Max is, well, not the best quality. Now, add the wide lens to the Pocket 2 and then you have 3 focal lengths or 3 of the 12 Pro Max lenses. The zoom in the Pocket 2 is digital and theoretically it shouldn't be anywhere near as good as the telephoto lens in the 12 Pro Max. But the Pro Max telephoto doesn't have the quality of the Pocket 2's main lens. So even though you are digitally zooming in, the Pocket 2 zoom can actually be very useful. And if light in general starts to drop, the zoomed in footage in the Pocket 2 may actually look better than the Pro Max telephoto. The lenses on the 12 Pro Max need a lot of light to give you good results. With plenty of light and having 4 lenses, you get a lot of flexibility and the image quality out of them is phenomenal. It really is. I think for landscapes, architecture, establishing shots, city skylines and that sort of thing, it's amazing because you get so much detail. I find it that sometimes it's actually too much detail and in a way it can feel a bit artificial. I personally like to tone it down a bit by reducing the sharpness in post because I always feel the 12 Pro Max footage is a bit too over-sharpened. Now in terms of low light, the 12 Pro Max is brilliant, but only the main wide lens. The rest of the lenses are nowhere near as good in low light and some of them, like the selfie lens, is a bit of a joke in low light. The issue I have with the Pro Max main wide lens in low light is that you still get, to this date, the iPhone trademark lens flares. It's so off-putting, honestly. You might think I'm making too much of a fuss about it, but when you have those annoying green dots moving all over the frame or all over your face, literally ruining every shot, well, you won't be so happy either. It's such a shame that they still allow for these lenses to have these issues. The only lens in the 12 Pro Max that doesn't have this issue is the ultra wide, but the quality is nowhere near as good as the main one. This is a real bummer for street filming at night or similar. If you want a wider focal length than the standard wide, you can just attach a wide angle lens and take advantage of the main wide's quality. But you'll still have the lens flares. There is no getting away from it. Forget about trying the telephoto or the selfie lens in low light. They are so bad it's embarrassing to even talk about them. Honestly, they are that bad. The Pocket 2 on the other hand, well, that's a very different story. The quality that you get out of the standard 20mm lens is phenomenal. And the main benefit over the 12 Pro Max is that you don't need to worry about those nasty lens flares. And that is a massive relief. If you want to let the camera adjust automatically to the ambient light around you, you get the ability to set a low and high ISO range. This is actually very well implemented. And if you leave the camera in auto exposure, it will adjust within those settings, which is amazing because you'll never have massive swings in exposure. Another benefit over the 12 Pro Max is that the adjustment happens quite smoothly and gently. Whereas if you set the auto exposure in the iPhone, the adjustment can be a bit too aggressive. Obviously, you will always want to keep exposure to manual and lock it. But there might be circumstances where having it in auto makes sense. For instance, if you do city walks at night, you might go from very well lit areas to much darker ones. Setting manual exposure to adjust to the ambient light around you would be pretty much impossible. You would get chunks of the video well exposed and other sections underexposed or too bright. So in those situations, auto exposure makes perfect sense. The 15mm wide angle lens of the Pocket 2 in low light is what makes this setup really amazing. It's a brilliant lens and you don't get any lens barrel distortion. In low light or at night, it's a brilliant lens. If you compare the quality that you get out of the Pocket 2 15mm lens to the 12 Pro Max 13mm ultra wide in low light, well, there is really no comparison. It's like comparing a Fiat to a Ferrari. Honestly, the Pocket 2 is amazing in low light. And being a gimbal, you still get that amazing stabilization. If you're on a tripod, I find the 12 Pro Max easier to operate, simply because it's easier to move and reframe. Whereas with the Pocket 2, you have to wait for the gimbal to gently catch up with where you want it to be. And yes, you can set the gimbal to fast pace rather than slow, but you still have to wait and it just doesn't feel as natural to me on a tripod as the 12 Pro Max does. Both these cameras have built-in stabilization, but as you can imagine, each of them do it in a very different way. The 12 Pro Max has the new fancy sensor shift stabilization in the main lens, which is by far the one I would recommend anyone use it. It does a pretty good job, and for the most part, if you do movements such as panning or tilting up or down, it will keep the frame smooth and stable. But if what you're looking for is gimbal-like stabilization, well, I'm sorry to break it down to you, it's obviously not a gimbal. You can try and cheat the gimbal effect by doing the ninja walk, and you might risk looking like a bit of a moron in public. And you know what? You'll never quite get it to look like a gimbal. It will look good, and for some people might just be fine. But if you want footage that looks like a gimbal, you'll have to mount the phone to a gimbal. And that is extra equipment and hassle. Some people might be okay with it, some of them not. Personally, when you compare it to what the Pocket 2 offers, it's like night and day. The Pocket 2 gives you a stabilization that the 12 Pro Max on its own will never be able to achieve. That should be a no-brainer. This is a fact of life, and no matter the amount of ninja walking that you do, the Pocket 2 is always going to win in this area by quite a margin. The gimbal is super easy to use, and the quality is actually remarkable. Plus, you get a ton of functionality and effects that you can do with it. For instance, you can set the gimbal to tilt lock, FPV, follow, and even full lock. And these are things that it's pretty much impossible to do with the 12 Pro Max. I go into this in more detail in my in-depth review of the Pocket 2, which you can see a link appearing up here if interested. If you're into vlogging, you might ask yourself, is this good enough? Because the 20mm focal length, it's a little too tight. Usable, but borderline too tight. Well, I would say that the Pocket 2 is better for vlogging than the 12 Pro Max, if what you're after is a smooth, stabilized shot. And I have to stress this, if you want a stabilized shot. But if you want to walk and talk, the Pocket 2 is really amazing. Now, in regards to the 20mm focal length, all you need to do is use a mini tripod or even an extension handle like the ones I use, and you will immediately get a wider field of view. The 12 Pro Max, on the other hand, well, You can add in this to the ultra wide, but the stabilization is not as good as the main wide. Saying that, the main wide at 26mm is tighter than the Pocket 2's 20mm wide. I've noticed that if you attach a wide lens adapter to the main wide lens, the stabilization goes a little bit all over the place for some reason, especially the background. But the stabilization on the Pro Max, on the main wide, without any wide angle lens adapter on, is much better. With the 12 Pro Max, you get a sort of a hybrid between handheld and gimbal stabilization, which for some people might be a little bit off-putting when compared to the Pocket 2, because it gives you a really super smooth stabilization. So without using a wide angle lens adapter, if you want to use the main wide lens, you need to use a mini tripod to outreach and give you that extra field of view. Obviously, the temptation is to use the selfie lens as you can see yourself on the screen, but for vlogging, if you care about quality, you'll want to use the main wide over the selfie lens. That means that you will need to look at the lens without any visual reference or monitor. You could use an iWatch to get a preview or another phone and connect it to the Filmic Pro through the remote app for framing, but once you get things going, it may be a bit of a lottery getting the right framing simply because you don't have a proper screen to look at. On the other hand, with the Pocket 2 you can connect it to the phone through the Mimo app, and as the lens rotates, you can view what you're doing and also control the camera and the gimbal through the phone. And this is brilliant, and where the Pocket 2, in my opinion, beats the 12 Pro Max in terms of functionality. If you're using the Pocket 2 for vlogging, I strongly recommend that you use manual focus instead of the autofocus. Tap on the screen and lock the focus to your face. Otherwise, the camera will be hunting for focus the moment your face moves out of the center of the screen. And it will happen more often than you think. This is something that you can easily do in the Pocket 2 because you get the ability to rotate the camera to face you, while at the same time you can look on the smaller screen, or on the iPhone screen if you attach it to the Pocket 2. This is one massive advantage the Pocket 2 has over the 12 Pro Max, and I mean huge, because you can easily see yourself in a screen without having to worry about framing and whether you are leaving too much headroom or not. On the 12 Pro Max, if you use Filmic Pro, you can do the same thing as with the Pocket 2 using the selfie lens. That is, as long as it's daytime and with plenty of light. Personally, I would suggest that if you want to use the best camera in the Pro Max, you should use the main wide. And if you do that, well, unless you have another phone with a remote app, there is no way you can lock focus on your face. The 12 Pro Max gives you a bit more depth of field than the Pocket 2, so for talking heads, you might prefer it. On the other hand, the Pocket 2 is less aggressive on the sharpness, so you might find the footage more pleasant to the eye. One of the main features in the Pocket 2 is the fact that you can rotate the camera from selfie mode to front facing without any compromise in quality. This is the opposite for the 12 Pro Max. The selfie lens and a standard wide lens, in bright daylight, they perform great. But it's when light starts to drop that you realize the selfie lens is absolute garbage in low light, and the wide lens is pretty much the only usable lens. With the Pocket 2, you can easily do panoramic photos and camera tracking. And this is something that if you want to do with the Pro Max, you need to mount it on a gimbal and have a third-party app do it. And that's extra equipment already, and things start to look and feel a little bit bulky. Now, obviously, this is nothing compared to what you'd need to recreate the same shots with a full-size DSLR or video camera. But compared to the Pocket 2, it starts to feel anything but compact. The Pocket 2 takes advantage of the fact that we all carry smartphones with us, so you can easily connect it to your phone, and through the Mimo app, either through a cable or wirelessly, you can control the camera settings as well as getting a live video preview. To do something like that with the 12 Pro Max, you need a second phone and the Filmic Pro app in one phone and the Filmic Pro remote app on another phone. But that will cost you extra, whereas the Mimo app is free, and the Pocket 2 takes advantage of the fact that we all carry a smartphone with us, so there is no additional investment. There are mounts for the Pocket 2 Mimo app setup, and they are very easy to use. The whole thing is fairly lightweight, but you get to enjoy the phone's larger screen over the tiny screen in the Pocket 2, and that makes a massive difference. In terms of the 12 Pro Max replicating the same setup, I feel it's a bit too heavy and bulky to have a two-phone setup. It's doable and I have used it in the past, but I feel it's a little bit too much when on occasion, unless you carry the phone on your hand and you control it wirelessly that way. One big difference in favor of the 12 Pro Max over the Pocket 2 is that the Pro Max is a smartphone, so you can download, transfer and edit footage in ways the Pocket 2 just can't. If you have a Mac and you got it linked to your iPhone, well, downloading footage can be done almost immediately over AirDrop, something that with the Pocket 2 is totally out of the question. There is a link appearing just up here now for a recent review I made of the Pocket 2 where I go in detail about the Mimo app and its features and functionality. So if you're new to the channel, you might want to check it out. I did the same for the 12 Pro Max, so if you're interested in my review, a link should show up just about now. Both cameras shoot 120 and 240 frames per second at 1080p, not 4K, and this is important to bear in mind. On both cameras, you're limited to 60 frames per second at 4K resolution. In my opinion, having these high frame rates is amazing, but overall sharpness drops, so they work better in close-ups than in general or wide views. Personally, I feel the Pocket 2 has the edge here over the Pro Max, but the slight letdown is that at 240 frames per second, the Pocket 2 crops in, whereas the 12 Pro Max doesn't crop in. I think this is one for each person to do the testing and see which one they like better. I still feel the 12 Pro Max is a little behind and the slow-mo looks a little softer than the Pocket 2's. But like I said, they both work better filming close-ups or tight framing. The 12 Pro Max gives you the ability to shoot time-lapses or hyperlapses, just as the Pocket 2 does. The only thing is that in the 12 Pro Max, you're limited to the fact that it's just a camera. So you're pretty much locked onto a tripod. On the other hand, with the Pocket 2, because it's a camera and a gimbal, you get up to 4 keyframe points. So you can move the camera and start at one point and end at a different point. You can even create a fluid traveling range using those 4 keyframes. The functionality is just miles ahead of whatever the 12 Pro Max can offer. And I have to say, the Pocket 2 camera movement is really smooth and the results are spectacular. But with this type of filming, you need ND filters. There is no way around it. If you want to get your time lapses with nice motion blur, or if you do it at night, those cool light trails, you need NDs. Without ND filters, everything will be super sharp and to some extent quite unpleasant to watch. The 12 Pro Max with Filmate Pro gives you a basic range of settings, whereas the Pocket 2 with the Mimo app gives you more settings and control over the camera. But if you want movement in your time lapses, this is where the Pocket 2 gives you way better results and functionality. This video is all about videography, but it's impossible not to talk even if just a little about photography. The 12 Pro Max with its 3 lenses give you great photos, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. Just as with video, the telephoto and the ultra-wide need a lot of light, but with photos, they can be a bit more forgiving, because in video, they need to process a lot of data in real time. With photos, you can afford long exposures. The Pocket 2 gives you RAW at 64 megabits, so the photos out of it look amazing as well. They really do. But let's be honest here, nobody buys the Pocket 2 for its photography features. At least not that I'm aware of. It's nice to have the feature, but frankly, I hardly use it, if ever. The 12 Pro Max, due to its form factor and range of lenses, feels to me the clear winner here. In theory, there shouldn't be a question as to which one has the larger and better display. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The displays are a huge difference between these two. The small 0.8-inch screen in the Pocket 2 can't compete in any way with the 6.7 inch of the 12 Pro Max. That's just common sense. But at the same time, the Pocket 2 tiny screen means you can do things with it that you can only dream of with the iPhone. So it's all relative to what situation you are and what it is that you need to shoot. Neither one is better than the other at everything, really. I mean, they are both different and they serve different purposes. The Pocket 2 smaller screen is what makes it so attractive in the first place. You could be filming in the middle of Times Square for hours and nobody would notice. You could be talking, vlogging, and most people wouldn't even notice what it is that you really are doing. It really is that small, and nobody would ever imagine that what you're holding is a camera. The 12 Pro Max, on the other hand, well, stands out like a sore thumb. And if you're filming something, people will know what it is that you're doing. Now, screen size and resolution is very important for judging framing and composition. I feel the Pocket 2's smaller screen is a bit too small for me to get reliable results. I find myself always attaching it to the phone and using the Mimo app so that I can actually see in the iPhone screen what it is that I'm doing. Unless there is a situation where I don't want to draw attention to myself for whatever reason, I almost always use the Mimo app and the phone attached to the Pocket 2, and this is when I feel more comfortable making sure that my settings and footage look correctly. Because let's be honest, the 12 Pro Max 6.7-inch screen is just beautiful. You get a really high resolution screen, which is brilliant to see fine detail, and also when working on your framing and composition. To top it all up, it's HDR capable, so you can actually watch HDR or Dolby Vision content on it, which is mind-blowing if you think about it. If you judge them individually for the display screen alone, the 12 Pro Max blows the Pocket 2 out of the water. But saying that, with the Pocket 2, you can easily attach it to the Pro Max and actually use the screen. So in actual fact, with the Pocket 2, you get the best of both worlds really, small and large. The 12 Pro Max can't just reduce itself in size and compete with the Pocket 2 in functionality and flexibility. So when you take all of this into account, things get a bit more leveled up as to which camera gives you the best display option. In terms of sound, the Pocket 2 is the clear winner here. You have 4 built-in microphones that you can also set on and off as you please. That alone is way better than whatever the 12 Pro Max has to offer. Only on this alone, the Pocket 2 is way ahead. If you got yourself the greatest combo with the Pocket 2, you get a really handy wireless radio mic that links directly to the do-it-all handle and gives you amazing sound quality without the need of having to mount a wireless mic receiver as you need to do on the 12 Pro Max to achieve the same result. The quality of audio that you get with the DJI radio mic is honestly brilliant, and you can also attach a lapel mic to it and use it as a transmitter to make it even more discreet. Personally, I feel the Pocket 2 has done a really good job here. You can achieve similar results with the 12 Pro Max, but it would never be as compact as it is with the Pocket 2. This again depends very much on what wireless mic you have, and the new Rode Wireless Go 2 are brilliant and super compact. But you better look at cost comparison between the greatest combo and a decent wireless mic kit. So which one is the best? To be frank, neither one is better than the other. I think that they are actually the perfect combination. The 12 Pro Max, if you do work on tripod, it's amazing. But if you plan to do a lot of work off tripod, like walking, running, talking, vlogging, and so on, I think the Pocket 2 will give you way more functionality than the Pro Max. If you can only afford one of them, well, like I said, it all depends on the kind of filming that you plan to do or your shooting style. Personally, I use both and the results I get are brilliant. Do I choose any of these over a full-size DSLR or mirrorless? Well, again, it depends on what I shoot, how and who for. For social media and YouTube content creation, both the 12 Pro Max and the Pocket 2 are brilliant, and even if you shoot with larger cameras, these can still give you a lot of flexibility as B or C cameras. Anyway, I hope you liked this video and got something positive out of it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. It will help the video getting some traction. I put up a couple of videos here that I also think you will like, and we'll see you in the next video.